Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I'm your host, Julie Fairhurst, and I'm with a really interesting lady today. She is a wealth of information regarding your health, and I think you're going to want to tune into this. I can't wait to go through this interview with her and learn. And because that's what we do. We learn from one another. So who we're going to be speaking with today is Claire Nelson. She spent 30 years helping people reclaim their health from the inside out, long before wellness was even trendy. Her story is one of resilience, reinvention, and the refusing to accept suffering as the final answer. And I just love that because so many people, I think, give up. Right, Claire? Hi,
Yeah,
Claire.
yeah, they really do.
Yeah, and the last thing we want to do is live our life in suffering, whether that's mentally, spiritually, physically, not a good place to be. So I am very thankful that you have agreed to do this with us today, and welcome to Women Like Me.
Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me. It's
Oh,
nice to have been corresponding with you for so many years and finally see your beautiful face. So this
oh,
is wonderful.
perfect. Good stuff. Well, thank you. Okay, so let me ask you by just starting off.
Oh,
So
by
when
the way,
you,
my name is Nielsen.
it is Nielsen. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, so when if you look back over the 30 years of health and wellness, what's a truth that you could wish you'd known when you just were starting out?
Oh, that's a really good one. So I'm 60 now, and I had my middle child at 30. And I've always been a healthy person. I've always been very mindful about what I put in my body. My mom was a kind of a non-hippie hippie. You know, she baked her own bread, made her own granola, used to have to pick out the weevils out of the oatmeal and then bake it. She was very thrifty, but she made sure that we didn't buy into the canned food, candy dinners, things like that. She always made food from scratch. So I had a really good example growing up in the 60s, 70s. And then when I left home in the early 80s, I spent some time doing what every young person does and eat a lot of crap, burgers and pizza and all the things that I wasn't fed as a kid. But it was soon after that I ended up with some digestive issues, which is usually the first thing to happen. And I switched back to eating healthy. Now, I, was always involved in my earlier years of wellness in mental health and understanding the nuances of our relationship with ourselves and with our relationship with others and children. And this is somewhat an area that I really delved into, and energetic medicine as well. But when I got sick at 50, I really turned back to nutrition. And I thought I was eating well. And what I got sick from was osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, degenerative disc disease, fibromyalgia.
Oh,
Basically, my body became inflamed. And when you have inflammation in your body, which can be anything from psoriasis to weight gain to arthritis to cancer, Alzheimer's, digestive issues, it's all inflammatory. And that's why the number one prescription drug is going to be an anti-inflammatory. So I did go on the medication because I wasn't aware enough of the connection between what I was eating, my nutritional intake, and what was going on in my body. I was eating a Greek salad every day and, a baked potato 5 times a week without butter, just, baked potato with seasoning and a bit of whatever on top. And I ended up getting so sore in my body, even though I was exercising daily, that I had to go on several medications, anti inflammatory medications, and ended up on prednisone, which
oh.
made me really sick. I gained 40 pounds. I got an ulcer. I had to go on more medication for that. And when I finally went to the doctor saying, look, I really need to get off these meds, this can't be the rest of my life. And he said, this is your new reality. You'll be on anti-inflammatories the rest of your life. And interestingly enough, this was in Richmond. It was an Indian doctor. Interestingly enough, when I asked him about turmeric and ginger, he said, "Well, that's just folklore," which I
Oh,
found quite
interesting.
quite interesting coming from a fellow who grew up in India.
Yes.
And and so when he told me I'd be on antidepressant or anti-inflammatories the rest of my life, I burst into tears and he wrote me a prescription for antidepressants. And
Wow.
that actually got me out the door with a few choice words that I'm not sure if I said them out loud or not, but I remember that day coming outside and going, okay, I'm alone in this.
Mm,
I have to figure this out. There is no medical route that is going to help me. And that's when I went back to school and I started researching nutrition and food as our pharmacy and the anti-inflammatory foods, foods that cause inflammation, foods that were treated inflammation, which foods to avoid. And I'll tell you, I healed myself. It was about 4 months before I was inflammation free and medication free. And
wow.
then I had to learn about menopause because it was menopause that brought this on.
Oh.
And I'm really, really passionate about women's health in particular, but any issues with inflammation in the body.
Mm,
And always, 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 the first thing is to look at what we are doing. We look at our diet, we look at what we're putting in our body that are basically inflammation is our body saying no. So we look at what we're putting in our
mm,
body that our body is saying no to. We have to look at our hormone health. We have to look at our belief systems. We have to look at our past trauma and what we're holding on to. What are the hooks in our psyche that we haven't let go of that have formed our deep beliefs about ourselves and the world and our relationships and our place in the world. And
mm.
so these are all the areas that I have been exploring over the past 30 years. Gosh, no, sorry. No, let's back that up. I've been involved in health for 30 years, starting with mental health,
Yeah.
but it's only been 10 years since I've really done a deep dive into the connection between our body, our mind, our belief systems,
Hmm.
our egoic connection and our understanding of self, our
Yeah.
nutrition, and our spiritual connection piece. And it's so important to me in my education of others that we talk about those three areas because they're so intertwined. And
Hmm.
I'm not a Bible thumper. I hope I don't offend anyone by saying that. But there are some things that I will quote, like my one of my favorite phrases out of the Bible is know thyself.
Hmm.
Know thyself in body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
And this is, if we understand ourselves without judgment, then we can really have that observation and learn some compassion and empathy for ourselves and forgiveness
Yeah.
for having the human
Yeah.
experience that we're
Yeah.
having. And when we can do that deep sort of psychological healing, then and do some spiritual connection regardless of what you believe in, it's so important to feel connected and then tend to the body we live in
Yeah.
because there's nowhere else to live. So
No, there's
these
nowhere
three
else to
areas,
live.
there's nowhere else we're going to live. So in
Yeah.
these and including our mind,
Yes. Yes.
our body needs to be clean and so does our mind. And
Yeah.
that starts with understanding. So these are the areas when I work as a consultant with people, we will go over all of these areas.
Mm,
What's going on, first of all, what's going on in the gut, then what's going on in your body, inflammatory wise, then and we tweak it based on the nutritional needs and whether we're getting enough of what we need. And we look
mhm,
at the mental component and our childhood and our generational stuff. And
Yes,
we look at the spiritual part.
you're encompassing all parts of the human psyche, body,
Hmm.
because I believe as well that our emotions holding on to things can absolutely make us sick.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
because when our body goes into inflammation, it's saying no. So our body might be saying no to what we're putting in it food-wise, which most likely it is, but our body also says no to where what we're hanging on to, what our belief systems are,
Hmm.
and what we do to ourselves in our self-talk and our if we're not able to be present. So I'll just share with you one of the things I go through when I talk about mental health a lot is I'll make 3 columns on a piece of paper for my client, and I'll name the first column past, the middle column present, the third column future. And I say, anytime we think anything, we are creating chemicals in our body. We're either creating cortisol, testosterone, adrenaline, any of the fear-based chemicals or the resistance chemicals, or we're creating endorphins, the peaceful chemicals that make us relax and keep us healthy. But most people, and most of those, beliefs and thoughts that are endorphin based are in that center column, which is present state of mind. In the past state of mind, the first column is going to be resentment, guilt, shame,
Hmm.
anger, um, any kind of resistance to self or others, holding on to trauma, holding on to belief systems that aren't healthy, but that's all about the past. The column on the third column is future, and any issues from future beliefs that get in the way of our present wellness, mental, spiritual, and physical, usually involve fear. So anxiety is fear. And I always say fear is just future expectation appearing real. And that's a great acronym.
Yes, it
And
is.
so, when you have any kind of anxiety or any kind of fear, it's really important that we reclaim our minds by noticing it, by saying, wow, look at that. Look at that fear. Where's that coming from? Why do I have
Hmm.
it? And then
Hmm.
practice some thinking that will bring you into the present state of
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
And the present state of mind, the energies there, there's so many: love, forgiveness, bliss, peace, friendship, happiness, forgiveness,
Yeah.
you know, being in the now,
Yeah.
surrender. There's a connection. There's so many words. And because we think in language, at least I do, I also am a visual thinker, but I mainly think in language in my
Yeah.
mind. Because I think in language and all of our thoughts become chemicals, that's how our body takes it on. That's why stress
Interesting.
kills, because stressful thoughts create stressful chemicals. Those stressful chemicals travel through our
Ah.
body and cause illness.
Well,
So,
I mean, I certainly knew that negative thinking would, cause stress, but I never put that together like that. Thank you for sharing that.
well, there's such a strong
Yes.
correlation between our mental wellness and our physical wellness. And then it can be a bit of a vicious cycle, because if we feel spiritually unconnected, disconnected, if we feel that we hate our body and we're in resistance to our body, and we don't have gratitude for the fact that our eyes work, or that we can, eat food through our mouth instead of a feeding tube, or that our legs work, or we have physical abilities.
Yes.
So many people are so hung up on the vanity of what they look like that they forget to have gratitude for their body. And gratitude
Mhm.
is the most important virtue in our thinking mind. And I've got a whole section on my published articles page of my website on gratitude, what it is, how to practice it, and a couple
Yeah.
stories of somebody who, I worked with a quadriplegic who I worked with years ago on finding gratitude. So and
Mhm.
gratitude is one of those center column. It's one of the now. Because
Yes.
when we can sit and have gratitude, our whole um, our whole parasympathetic nervous system settles down.
Ah. See,
We focus this thing.
I believe that gratitude can change your life.
Oh, totally, it
Yeah,
can.
but again,
And
I never connected it with a nervous system or,
mm,
it's
everything we think, everything we think is connected to our nervous system.
Mhm. Which makes
Everything we
sense.
hold on to. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I speak a lot about um, these aspects. Like I know we don't have time to go into some of the articles I've written, but I've
Hmm.
been writing for about a dozen papers in the Lower Mainland now for several years. And these are the things I write about. Like I'm writing about the concept of what is judgment. What is judgment? What's it look like? How do we find it in ourselves? How do we recognize it? And a couple articles ago, I wrote on hormonal health for men. And a couple articles before that, I wrote about the spiritual connection in nature, and
Oh,
so there's a wide range, but everything is connected.
yes.
Everything is connected. This trilogy of mind, body, spirit is really what we need to remember because we cannot take care of one area without taking care of all areas. And
Mm,
that connection piece, when we are focusing on all areas of our own human trilogy, we can we can really find our balance. But if we
mm,
miss one area, if we are just focused on our body and going like crazy, eating the right things, exercising like mad, develop these beautiful bodies, but our mental health isn't great, and we haven't allowed the healing in our body that we need to do. And if we have beliefs and we end up getting body dysmorphia or something that doesn't serve us, then we're out of balance.
yes.
So health has to be all areas.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that. I think that I think you're right. I think what happens so often is we'll focus, more on the mental health or oh, I'm feeling sick or achy or whatever that might be, or I'm hormonal. And so you start to focus on that. But you're
Hmm.
right. It's the whole of
Yeah.
who we are
I
to get
wrote an
that.
ar- I wrote a recent article that I just want to touch on what you just said. I am. You made a whole bunch of declarations there that were I am. And
Ah.
it's really important to understand that when we state I am, we are claiming something that our psyche will hear us claim and attach to. When we say, I am feeling with it, which is a temporary condition, then our psyche doesn't claim it as part of us. So you got to remember
Wow.
the back of our mind where our subconscious belief systems live is not in the forefront of our mind. And when we don't know what's going on back there and we're declaring, identity in certain areas, that gets us in trouble. So one of the articles I wrote was I can't even remember the name of it, but it's in the mental health section on my website. And it is about, be very careful what you declare. There's a difference between a feeling, which is temporary, and a declaration, which actually becomes part of our belief system about who we are.
Well, today I will be going to your website to find that article and have a read of it.
Yeah,
That is, yes. Thank you, Claire, for that.
you're
And
welcome.
so you have a lot of resources on your website. And if I'm not mistaken, there's no cost to anybody to go and
No.
look up those documents and and uh, and read them and learn
Well,
from them.
I'll tell you, Julie, I am driven crazy. When I'm doing my research, I read a lot of university documents, and Google Scholar is a place I go a lot to read medical journals and things like that when I'm talking about physical health and nutritional health, because I'm not, a doctor. And my area, the more I learn, the more I realize how ignorant I really am.
Mm.
So I am always learning about this connection between, is particularly food and health. And it's pretty scary. It's pretty scary what classifies these days as food, right? So anyway,
Yes.
when I started doing this research, my articles were a little more general, and I'd maybe take, 3 or 4 resources and then do some paraphrasing and organizing and write them in a way that's easy to read. The reason that I don't charge for my articles, and not even for Glacier Media, is because I really think information should be free. And you shouldn't have to do the kind of deep dives that I do to find some information. So I write the articles at like a grade 12 level,
Hmm.
and I try not to make them too complicated. I try to keep them simple. I try to have them, cover one area so that I don't have people trying to go through, 5,000 words to find out what's wrong with them. So every article is generally under 1,000 words, and it's specific in an area. And then I talk about how it's connected to other areas in that same article or in another article. But the reason I don't charge for them is because I am so sick and tired of seeing masterclass this, masterclass that, or even the Harvard, writes these quick articles and you have to pay for them,
Yes.
right? And so
Yes. I've
why
seen that.
it's all becomes monetary. It's so information has been monetized to the point where I think it really jades people.
Mm.
And then of course there's all the apps. I don't
Oh,
have an app.
yes. Yes. Yes.
I will not ever have an app, I don't think, because I really believe that, what I have written and shared on my website covers so many areas,
Hmm.
and it's just meant to be thought provoking. And if something resonates with one, they can sort of focus in that area and do their own research,
Yeah.
or we can talk about it. So I have
Yes.
quite a few people who read the articles who then do become um, clients of mine, and then we
Yes.
can talk about where they all fit. But whenever I take on a health client, I will always say, please read the articles first.
Mm.
Go through, read whatever articles feel right to you, resonate with you, and you may not need to call me back. So it's not
Yes.
really a
Yeah.
business model that's going to make me rich that way. But my main motivation for doing this really is around the education piece
Yes.
and empowering.
Yeah. I love that. I think, and you're right. Everything is, obviously people need to earn livings for sure,
Mhm.
but I agree that there is
Well,
information should just be free.
and
And
don't get me
things,
wrong, I
no,
will
no.
sell my product,
Yes, of
but
course, of
but
course.
the articles that I write, and my passion around mental, physical, and spiritual wellness is not, in my books, an area that's going to be monetized for me,
Yeah, I
right?
think that no, I think that's beautiful. And there's it's helping the masses. It's getting the
Mhm.
word out there. And so I think that's great. And I will be going to your website because there's a couple of little things that you've got me going, oh, that I want to take a look at for sure. So I had another question here I wanted to ask you. Let me just turn my paper over here. Oh, yes. So, what do you wish women understood about menopause?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a great article that
Yeah.
I've written about um, women allowing themselves to go through this
Hmm.
together. Because I will tell you, my mom never told me anything. I
No.
didn't know what to expect. Women don't talk about it. So, one of the articles I wrote was actually Laughed So Hard I Peed My Pants. That's what it's called, about the pelvic floor. Now, I don't go into the article about how to do pelvic floor exercises, but I do promote pelvic floor physiotherapy and working on that because that's a huge area for women, especially women who've given vaginal birth to children, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it is a huge area. I wish I knew when I was younger about what I know now. Um, it's also an understanding our mental health
Mm.
because a lot of women my age feel invisible. And this is another article that I'm going to be writing. I have watched, even in my own family, I have watched my value change over the years. And
Mm.
when your value changes as a woman, it feels kind of yucky, and then your body's changing and you've got jowls and you've got weight where you don't want it, and your power is not in your beauty anymore. And we were
Mhm.
all beautiful and young once,
Of course.
and
Yeah.
we hand over the baton
Yeah.
to the next generation who has no idea that they're ever going to become us, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how do we gracefully embrace this and see
Mm.
our power and our personal power in a different way? And find our voice without it being an angry voice. Working on the bitterness, working on the anger, working on the self image, the self worth, and finding our value in a different way. And
Yeah.
that I'm extremely passionate in that area
Yeah. Love
because
that.
women, we really do get a raw deal.
Yes.
Men don't lose the kind of respect that we do.
Hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Can I ask you, I know we're getting short on our time, but I have a little bit of a burning question just from what you were talking about. Why do you think we don't talk about menopause? Why don't women
I,
talk about it?
I think it's a generational, societal, taboo.
Mm,
And I'm going to share with you a funny story, and I don't know if this will make it.
okay.
Maybe I should share it to the end. I'll share it at the end, then you can cut it if you like. But it was about me going through an operation for my pelvic floor, and I'll share that with you right at the end. But in regards to talking about menopause and talking about the changes women feel,
Yes.
it's so important because as a woman, when we go through it, it really pulls the rug out from under us and
Yes.
we don't know what's wrong. All of a sudden, things hurt. All of a sudden, we don't enjoy sex anymore, or we are not fitting into our clothes, even though we're not doing anything differently. We might be exercising just as much as we ever did, but we start expanding. And that's all about, estrogen and insulin and what happens in a body when our hormones change because and you know what insulin is,
Yes.
obviously. Well,
Yes.
when our insulin requirements change or our estrogen goes down, those two chemicals together work hand in hand. So we end up, if
Mm,
we are not aware, we end up um, becoming insulin resistant and our shapes change. And as soon as
mm.
our shapes change, we start having self-esteem issues. And as
Right.
soon as we start having self-esteem issues, our behavior will change, right?
Yeah.
And then our relationships change. And
Yes.
we lose our heart, we lose our
Yes.
center, we lose our
Yeah.
value. And
Yeah.
so these are areas for women, not just about talking about hormonal change or body shape change, but what's going on for us psychologically that we
Hmm.
need to address and be aware of
Yes.
and feel that we're not alone in. Because
Yeah.
look around. Every woman my age looks like me.
Yeah. I
So,
know. I understand. I get it.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
why are we not having fun
Yeah.
and just enjoying that? Every
Yes.
time I see one of those crazy reels or Facebook videos or TikTok that someone sends me about an older woman who is just, she is just outspoken and she's going to tell it how it is. Or,
Yeah.
I always pass them along because it's so important to laugh and
Yes.
to understand that we are a powerful group of people, women
Absolutely.
of the postmenopausal age or menopausal age, we are a big voice.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
in order to be heard, sometimes we have to change the way we speak a little bit.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to soften our approach, because when we come at our life with that, I'm pissed off and now you're going to hear me because, you always listened and now you're not. So I'm
Yeah.
going to like drill it on you. It doesn't work. So
No.
learning how to embrace ourselves
Yes.
and be comfortable in our own bodies and our own minds
Yes.
is so
Perfect.
important.
Okay. I want to hear the pelvic story.
Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
So I did not understand what was going on for my pelvic floor until basically things were falling out of my body. So when I went to the doctor and had a pelvic exam, the gynecologist told me that she said, well, you've got, a stage 4 prolapse of your uterus, your bowel, and your bladder.
Ooh.
Everything was falling out. So I mean, sex was out of the question because nothing could go up there while everything was falling out, right?
Yes.
So instead of going for pelvic floor physiotherapy right away, they just said, well, the only option is surgery. So I had my gynecologist was 9 weeks pregnant plus 10 days. I was 9 months pregnant plus 10 days on the day of my surgery. So she brought in her partner, who was another woman, another gynecologist. Then I had two student doctors in the room, both female, two nurses, both female, and two student nurses. So there were 8 women in the room, in addition to me,
Wow.
and one male anesthesiologist. So I was lying in the bed waiting to be put under to have surgery in these three, areas. And the head gynecologist said to the others, okay, patient's name is Claire Nielsen. So it's a whole group of women that were looking at me, and then she was facing them at the foot of the bed. Patient's name is Claire Nielsen. These are the procedures we're doing today. So she started rattling off the medical procedures, which are all, medical Latin terms.
Yes.
And after the third thing she said, I've always turned to being goofy when I'm nervous. So out of my nervousness, I just said, oh, for heaven's sakes, just tell them all you're giving me a 20-year-old vagina. So for about 2 seconds, it was dead quiet. And then that response, they all just started laughing. It was
That's
so
awesome.
loud. And that's how I fell asleep, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
But they said they could hear it 3 ORs down the hallway. They could hear, all this laughter coming from OR room 1. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I love
yeah,
that. It's
yeah,
real life stuff. And it's good to know that, that if people need help, they can reach
yeah,
out and get some help. They don't need to
for
suffer.
sure.
Yeah.
And it's the suffering and silence.
Yes.
And it's the confusion and
Hmm.
feeling alone and not feeling valued and losing our self-love, because if we've never had a strong sense of self-love and we have obtained our love elsewhere through our relationship or our children, and all of a sudden that changes, and we are floundering.
Hmm.
And a lot of women get angry, they get angry, they withdraw. I wrote an article about this, what it's like for women to have her life change so much that then she is just angry at everyone.
That's a
You know,
sad place to end up.
it's a sad place because when we're angry, we are putting a lot of chemicals in our body that are very conducive to disease settling in.
Hmm. Hmm.
So finding
Wow.
this peace and this balance and feeling settled in ourselves, and this what is, self-love, and how to just navigate our life in with as much ease and grace as possible. And grace is huge. It's another article I've written about as well. Of
Yeah.
what is grace?
Yes.
How do we
Yeah.
have grace?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's for me, the power, women's power is not in, you know, so much of the this is my stand and I'm going to drill it into everyone and hear me roar. It's more the quiet, gentle, I hope, graceful way of being,
Hmm.
but with strong boundaries,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And a clear voice.
Yeah. Well, Claire, I just appreciate your wisdom so much and your
Oh,
passion. I appreciate it so much. I personally, that's one of the reasons I love doing these is because I just learned
yeah,
so much. I've learned
yeah.
some stuff about myself. I'm definitely going to have a look at a few of those articles. I'm interested in reading and learning a little bit more.
Mhm.
And so I thank you so much for doing this and being willing to share with everyone. So
Oh,
I
thanks,
want,
Julie.
oh, thank you.
I also really appreciate what you're doing.
Oh,
I've been
thank you.
following you for quite a few years now, and giving voice to women is just such a beautiful, empowering thing.
I love
You
it.
know, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it. And yeah, I just love it. So I want everyone to know that if you want to reach out to Claire, if you want to read any of these articles that she has on her website, all of that information of how to do that is going to be in the show notes. So you'll be able to find links or whatever you need to be able to investigate those and do that. She's done all the research for you. You don't need to Google or AI it. Like she's got it, grade 12 level,
Mhm.
nice, easy reading. I'm going to go get myself some of those as well. And yeah, and reach out to her at all if you're having any questions. And as she said, she does work with people as well to help them. So if you think you might be a good fit, then please reach
Mhm.
out to her. So once again, Claire, thank you so much for doing this
Oh,
and
thank
for
you,
willing to
Julie.
share
Mhm.
really some extremely important wisdom with all of us. We need
Well,
to
I
hear
do
these
say
things.
I don't feel wise. So when you
Oh,
put me on that pedestal, it's further to fall. But what I am is passionate about learning. And when I learn something, I've been very, very fortunate enough to have a venue given to me to share what I'm learning. And the more that I learn, the more I understand, and the more all the puzzle pieces seem to fall into place. So that's all I'm doing is sharing my journey with anyone who's interested.
thank you. I love that. Very humble. I love that. Okay, everybody. Well, this is it for this episode. So tune in next time to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. And thank you all for being here. Bye bye, everyone.